Hi everyone, welcome to today's show. Thanks for joining us. Give a bit of context here about what today's show's about. Over the past few months during this lockdown, I've been so intrigued and interested to understand how companies are performing now that everything's been run remotely. And not just how sales teams are performing, but how management is interacting with them, how they're keeping them energized, and how that's all working now. You have to be, majority of people working from home. So I was sitting with a friend the other week, one of those times we've been able to get out, and we were having a chat about this. And he mentioned that a mutual friend of ours has been at this company, and they deal with helping companies that are going through these sort of issues and how to get their team motivated. And it's like a system which they use, which has been tried and tested, and is actually helping companies to stay motivated and keep their team energized. And all in all, keep things fun as well, which is what this is all about. So without further ado, I've hopefully built him up a little bit here, but today I have on the show, his name is Jason, and he's from a company called Sales Screen. So Jason, hi.
Afternoon, thanks for having me, Mark.
No problem, no problem. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about the company?
Cool. So yeah, I'm a fellow Brit. My kind of background was from recruitment, so I've been in a kind of sales environment for the past decade, pretty much. Recently, I moved to Singapore, and that's when I've been starting to work with Sales Screen. So they were a Norwegian company originally, but have now branched out into Asia. And their whole kind of offering is geared around gamification and visualization of key performance indicators within a business. So it's all about creating kind of a fun and high performance environment as well, through the use of gamification.
Perfect. All right. So what is gamification? Like, it's a great word. I love it. Sounds really fun. So let's see how that fits in with work.
Exactly. And that's what scares a lot of people off when you talk to them about gamification. They don't really see that there's a business case associated with it. They just think, oh, it's a fun, nice to have, but it's not actually a need to have. And that's now starting to change with, like you mentioned, the work from home. People are struggling with motivation and engaging with their companies. So yeah, gamification broadly is any way that you can gamify, so kind of make rules, competition structures that make kind of targets that you're working towards more engaging. So whether that's through visuals, whether it's through the setup of competitions, it's in kind of using that innate competitive spirit that humans have to make you compete, and also obviously the desire for recognition. So it's kind of playing on your human instincts for competition on one side, and then obviously your peer recognition, and then from your management as well.
Yeah, when I heard about this from our mutual friend, big shout out to Whitey, actually, by the way, living legend. So I hope you're watching and listening. But it just kind of really, because when my sales training, it's all about interaction and keeping people motivated, and that hunger to kind of win as well, really. And I think if you've got a chart there that isn't just another spreadsheet or just another list of putting what you're expecting, the amount, and you can make it more fun, I'm all for that. So for something like this, I think is absolutely great.
Definitely. And I mean, the traditional sales environment, it's all based around a leaderboard, say a monthly target where you'll have your top performer or everyone within the business trying to get towards kind of, to increase their sales during the month to an end figure. And then we end up finding that there's always the same 2-3 people each month who are winning. So those sort of competitions over time become less and less impactful, because for you to really kind of buy into something, you have to believe there's a chance of winning. Yeah. So if you've got 20 people in your company, you're all in the sales team, but 2 guys keep smashing it every month and always winning, those other 18 people aren't involved in that process. And that's where you can start getting smarter with it, to make more people feel like they're part of it and feel like they've got a chance of engaging and winning.
So do you want to give us some examples of that then, like where you've got the top leaders, but then the bottom, well, not the bottom, but the other lot who are meant to be, you need to feel like they're getting involved as well. So what are some examples of like companies that have done something to get everyone entertained, really?
So what a lot of companies do is they focus on the kind of top of funnel activities rather than kind of the closing kind of sales, kind of end of funnel, kind of that closing the deal metrics that lead to sales. So for calls, say, obviously these examples, traditionally the more calls you make, the more meetings you get, the more leads you get, the more sales you make.
Yeah.
So people who are not necessarily closing the most deals, you can still set up competitions that incentivize them to make more calls. So we often run competitions where it's like a spin the wheel. So at the end of the week, you do a kind of roulette where you spin the wheel, but each individual from the team gets tickets to that lottery draw. And that is based upon the number of calls they've made, for example. So kind of by setting up a competition where it is luck in essence, it's obviously a spin the wheel type competition, you're driving the behaviours that are going to lead to sales, but it's not necessarily just something which is saying, well, the person who sold the most is the one who gets the prize. So you're kind of playing with the traditional kind of, it's not necessarily the best performer who wins it, but it's all still driving those same behaviours you need to drive sales. So you're kind of like, rigging the system slightly.
Yeah, I like that though, because I mean, I've worked at companies where it's pretty much, if leads come in, for example, they look at who the biggest performer is and they give the leads to that person. So for the business, it makes sense to give those to the biggest performer, but everyone needs to get involved really. And people need, where does this positive energy come from? It comes from like people being inspired and motivated. So when there is that sort of chart, which they can be winning, even if they're not like the biggest seller, I think that creates that sort of momentum. And I think that's something like this helps with that.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And I think what people are finding as well is data is available so easily now through systems that companies are using. So you can also utilize the kind of recognition and the acknowledgement for people of the things which are not necessarily just closed deals, but interviews, meetings booked. You can still celebrate those smaller wins with people if you can get real-time data into your technology and then allow. So if I'm I'm not an elite sales performer, but I'm kind of mid-table, but I book a meeting with a great client who we've been trying to get hold of. Typically that wouldn't be celebrated across the business, especially if you're working from home, because no one would know it's happening.
Yeah.
But if you make that data real time as part of a game or it's filtering into a game, the whole business can then see that activity is taking place and you receive the recognition from your peers as well. So it's the reward can kind of also be part of the competition. And it's not necessarily always just selling. It's also the kind of parts that lead up to the sale, which are just as important.
The company name, Sales Screen, from what I understand, actually, isn't just about for salespeople, even though as us being salespeople, we know we're the most important part of any business. There's also those other teams as well, which can be just as competitive as well, which can be finance, marketing. I've seen the competitive side of a lot of these guys when there's been a little competition going on. So how does this product help them as well? How does it keep them entertained as well?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I think probably the second biggest use case for us, apart from sales teams, are customer support teams. Okay. So again, it's high volume calls. So there's a lot of activity that's being logged and a lot of things you can gamify to make people compete. But I mean, a lot of companies will have like chat ratings. How was your customer support call out of 10? And people, if you gamify that, we've seen companies who have gone wild for it. You can really drive performance even in a kind of inbound environment, not necessarily an outbound environment. So it's really anywhere where there's KPIs, and pretty much every part of the business has a KPI that you can gamify at the end of the day. To be honest, one of the
Go on.
Oh no, I was going to say, when I first joined them, one thing that kind of helped me understand what gamification, how it works, and the kind of what it does to you as a human is they gave the example of if you've got you're a salesman and you're in an outbound call center. So you've got a manager, so say me and you work for a company, we're the only 2 people in the call center. Okay. And we've got a target to reach 10 calls per day. That's our KPI for the business. Every day we're going to make our 10 calls. We'll probably make maybe 11, 12 if we get a bit excited, but we're going to work within what our targets are, what our manager expects. However, if you set up a competition whereby whoever makes the most calls in the day receives 120% of their commission rather than 100%, you can guarantee you're going to have 2 people there who are making 20, 30, 40 calls. Yeah. And it's the mindset of you're not kind of hitting them with the stick of the KPI saying you've got to do 10 calls. you're giving them the carrot of the reward to say good behavior or kind of going above and beyond will receive greater reward. And it's that change in mindset, which again can happen across any part of the business. It's giving people the right incentives to do the right work.
Nice. So this isn't any sort of sales plug for your company, for Sales Screen. It's something that I've actually been very interested in to find out more. So
Yeah.
do you want to give us some case studies really where businesses have been running and then you guys have come in and it's taken it off really?
Sure. So I mean, this is not just specifically Sales Screen. This is kind of industry wide. Okay. So in a survey done last year, over 70% of companies who use gamification saw anywhere in between 10 and 50% increase in the KPIs that they gamify. Okay. So pretty much if you're a business who takes it seriously and implements it properly, you're going to see some uplift, and it's then just depending on how much of an uplift is depending on what you get out of it. So we work with, well, you'll probably know who they are when I say them. So they're a German ERP company. It's one of the largest software businesses in the world. So we've been working with them for a couple of years now, and we work with their outbound call center to basically drive call volume. So just that was the one KPI they wanted to increase because they could see that that's what would lead to the kind of onward results that they were looking for. And just by setting up simple games like the one I mentioned about pitting people against each other within team structures, just little competitions like that managed to see them increase call volumes by 76% during competitions. So on an average basis across the whole company. And if you're seeing that just in one competition on one KPI, you can imagine the trickle-on effects that are going on further down the sales funnel, that you've just got a kind of swarm of leads and information coming into the business. And it's always, it's great to see companies who have such a big success, like 76% increase would be huge for us. But on average, we see about 50% increase across those metrics when they use us for gamification.
50%?
50%. So 50%, we had, I think, 6,000 competitions last year with clients. And on average, it was about 56% increase on those KPIs that we gamified.
Yeah, I think, anyone listening now, they just kind of need to ask themselves that question. What does 50% activity mean for their business in regards to revenue, really? If they're working out that funnel of how many calls, how many meetings, how many deals, if it's 50% more increased and they're getting a lot more deals, products like this, and that's what I like something that's measurable. If you bring in a product like this and it does drive that activity, which does turn to more business, that's something you literally can say, well, by spending this, you will get this from it if it's used the right way. Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of companies are, especially now with work from home and obviously what's going on globally with obviously business at the moment, a lot of spend on new tools. But the use case, like you say, we can prove the ROI relatively quickly just because they can see those increases in the numbers they're looking at on a daily basis.
Nice. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
This is live, people. This is live.
We lost something.
No. Plug the charger in would help, wouldn't it? That would help quite a bit. We're live, people. Don't worry, we're live. This is all real. So I think with some of these products, what has tend to have been a sort of environment within a business that, let's do a competition and let's kind of call everyone out if they're not performing. And I think a lot of people, and I've come across this before, where you've tried to create this competition, but a lot of people, they call out the non-performers more than calling out the big performers. And I think a lot of people, they kind of lose motivation. So how would something like this solve that, really?
So, a lot of sales, obviously sales roles, a lot of it is based around commission. So I'm sure all the roles you've done beforehand, a lot of the big motivation is to earn the big bucks from obviously being the top performer. What, again, looking kind of further back up the sales funnel, you can use the kind of leading indicators, so the calls, meetings, booked, activities that are not closing the sale. You can gamify them and provide non-financial incentives as well that people can then be rewarded for. So a lot of companies will give out points, for example, if they meet their call quota or their meetings quota, and then they can use those points to either spend in a company reward shop or they can use for something else. So yeah, the leaderboards are effective to a point, but there are a lot of other ways to get other people involved. It don't necessarily mean giving them cash, but you're just kind of creating the environment where they do get a reward that they, yeah, eventually they can spend it, but it's not just saying the top 3 guys are the guys who are winning it every month. So you can use it as a percentage increase, as an example.
Okay.
So rather than saying the top billers for the month, whoever has increased their billings from the previous month, and then you can gamify the percentage change. But it's all about visualizing it. And I think that's what's changed with working from home is companies are now having to make the data more available to their teams because they're not in the office environment to be kind of nagging them about calls or kind of reminding them of targets. So if you've got a platform that makes all this data available real time, I mean, people are very visual. So you want to be able to see it and understand what the targets are. And it helps a lot that you can see these competitions kind of on a screen, whether it's a race or something going on, you can actually interact with it visually as well.
Nice. So I think going into this a little bit further now, there's 2 parts here I don't want to speak about. One is that a lot of companies, they take on a product like this and they're just left to their own devices, like to kind of get on with it really. So first of all, how does Sales Screen help them with that problem? And
so,
go on.
No, carry on. Pose me the 2 and I'll...
No, go on. No, you answer this part first. That's fine. Go on.
Yeah. So usually we work, or most companies like us, we use on a pilot program to prove that obviously the use case does work within their business. So we'll come in and get a kind of understanding of what tools the business are using to communicate with their kind of sales departments, and then understand how they run their competitions. We work with them to then redesign those competitions, and then as we're going along the process of the 2-month pilot, we can tweak them or change the type of competition to see whether we can get different behaviors from people. So it's definitely a moving target, but I think everyone's motivated by different things. But even in sales, people think there's money-hungry people who are kind of crazy for commissions and they won't do something that doesn't mean they'll end up with money in their pocket. But there's a lot of people who are not motivated just by the cash. They're motivated by doing a good job and the security that will bring to their family and kind of the broader job satisfaction they get. So we work with them to tweak it for sure. But it's a consulting environment with them, but every company is different and the culture is different, which is probably the biggest thing. Every company operates in a different way.
And there's an account manager with their subscription or with their service, the service?
They'll have a kind of point of contact within the business that they can work with as they go along. But I mean, the key thing is that they are quite easy to set up. I mean, the different templates you can use as a business, if you're a sales manager looking to kind of play around with it. I mean, a lot of people can just do it themselves to figure out what works. And that's the joy of having software. You can kind of play around with it. There's not really much else, not much need for ongoing support.
Okay. And the second part to this is that how easily does it integrate to other products which the company might already have? Because I know from experience with all these companies that approach and say, we do this, we have this, and it's like, oh my God, another app, another CRM, another something else. So if it does all combine together, I'd love to know more.
Yeah. So that's the first pushback we always get is, no, we've already got enough systems. This is too complicated. This is going to be a mess. So I mean, we integrate with all the major CRMs. So 50% of our customer base use Salesforce. And we basically pull real-time all of the data from the CRMs. So luckily CRMs are relatively simple to integrate with, and that's what we use in most cases. Okay. But kind of more complicated systems, it certainly becomes a bit more challenging with the large banks or the telcos who have these huge, like I say, huge technology stacks that make it difficult. I mean, you can do it manually. So it's not just, you don't have to have the data from the company. You can kind of log your own activities as well that feed into the competitions. But it's making the data real time is what is the important thing, because then people can see when they log a call, the recognition comes on the system and people can celebrate with them, whether it's a like or a GIF that they post on the platform. So it's the real time activity which makes it fun. And that's the part which a lot of teams miss out on if they haven't got a system that they use to kind of build like a team environment.
Yeah, I remember when I took over this sales team about, what, 4 or 5 years ago now, I had an internal promotion within the business, and I sat down with the team and I just said, you know, what do you want me to get for you? Like, what do you want me to get for you? And you'd think it would be money more than anything, but really, like, they just wanted recognition within the business. Like, they'd worked so hard for so long and they'd just been left. Like, it wasn't a team which was looked after, had like 5 different managers, and I came in and I kind of wanted to understand the problems they're facing. And they said, like, they just don't get enough recognition. So I think something like this, where it's not so much about, oh, you're the biggest earner, it's more about like what you're doing for the business as well. And that's what is so important. I think it's so important, like, because I'm all about building a sales career, building a career in a business. And it isn't so much about how much you earn, it's about how much you're doing for that company, and then recognizing that and rising up the ranks because of it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's we actually have 1 in 3 people leave their jobs because of lack of recognition. It's one of the things that we have on our sales deck, and it's so true. So many people, they don't want to be the top performer. They just want to know that they're doing a good job and have the recognition.
Yeah.
And to get peer recognition is hard, especially in sales jobs, because a lot of people are kind of on their own mission, trying to achieve their personal goals and not really thinking about the team objectives.
Yeah.
So if you can create team competitions and teams against teams where you build that kind of camaraderie amongst people, you get the recognition, you get the engagement, and kind of bringing that all together creates a happier work environment. And it can be done remotely. It's not something you need to be in an office for.
Yeah.
And that's the upside.
So to round this up now, there's a question I like to ask at the end, and hopefully it's not going to catch you out too much, but is there anything that I haven't asked which I should have asked?
How much does it cost? That's what most people would ask.
Oh, there you go, there you go. How much? Yeah.
No, yeah, I was joking. To be honest, no, there's nothing specific. I think it's a lot of people, it's hard, when they hear gamification, they don't really see the business outcomes. And I think now a lot more people are becoming a lot more savvy around people's personal needs rather than just the business performance. And I think tools like gamification and recognition tools and internal kind of company mechanisms to make sure people feel valued are going to become more and more important. And if you can make that environment fun, then I think you're onto a winner. And then it's just the case of, how do you find these tools and how do you get them into the business? That then becomes a challenge, because it's a growing industry and there's a lot of companies out there doing it, but you just have to find the one that's right for you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of companies that have this good intention to kind of make things more fun or competition and everything. But when you try to pull the data at the end of the year, if you've not got a system in place, which is actually measurable and can gather the data, then what was the point in having it? Like, you need something that you can review each month, really. So I've seen it myself. Like, they've got this intention to do good things, and it's the same with gathering data. It's the same with lead generation. All, like, unless you've got a system in place which is staged and you know exactly what's going on, then when it comes to the end of it, there's nothing that's measurable. So what's the point in having it?
Exactly. And if the data is not available in real time, you're not actually going to change the behaviours of people, because they're not going to really understand where they are. Kind of like if you're running competitions for calls, say, and you're at the end of the day and you can see on a real-time leaderboard that you're one shy of what you need to be to go top of that leaderboard, you'll stay and make that extra call because you're aware and you can see the incentive in front of you. And if you don't have real-time data, that's not possible. So companies have to become more digital. And I guess industries are at different stages of that, how they manage to make data real time. But that's part of the challenge of using gamification, is how to make it as real time as possible.
Nice. So as we're about to finish, do you want to give your details? So if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can get in contact with you directly. You want to give a little name drop and name and email address and everything?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Jason Williamson. Company address is jason.williamson@salescreen.com. You can get me on there. I follow you on LinkedIn, so that's where I get my information from you, but I'm not on Instagram, which I know you're popular with, but it's not something I'm sadly on. So LinkedIn or email is without a doubt the best way.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate your time. And I'm glad that gamification is getting out there a lot more.
It's coming. It's coming to a company near you.
Yeah,
So
brilliant. All right, thanks a lot, and take care, and stay safe, as everyone keeps on saying now.
Will do. And you. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right.